Welcome, seeker of the sacred spark. Before we begin, I invite you to take a breath, not just any breath, but one that sinks deep into your belly. Feel it. Beneath that breath, beneath the muscle and memory, lies a door. Today we open it, not with force, but with knowing. For this is no ordinary journey. This is a return to the ancient, the hidden, and the divine within your own body. Part 1. The forgotten thread beneath your spine. Have you ever considered that the most sacred gateways to your soul may not lie in the heavens above, but in the very tissues of your body? That perhaps the divine is not something you chase beyond the stars, but something quietly pulsing beneath your ribs, whispering from your core, waiting not to be found, but to be remembered? There is a muscle, silent, unseen, often forgotten, that ancient mystics once revered as the sacred fuse of the soul. In modern anatomy, it is known as the psoas. But to the ancient soul workers, it was something more, a golden thread woven between body and spirit, a living axis between instinct and transcendence. Anatomically, the psoas connects the lumbar spine to the femurs. It supports your posture, governs your stability, and facilitates motion. Yet all this is just the surface. In esoteric traditions spanning Egypt, India, Taoist China, and Greece, this same region of the body was regarded not as mechanical, but mystical. To them, this area was the throne of Kundalini, the coiled serpent of divine energy resting at the base of your spine. A primordial dragon curled beneath the navel, a torch buried in sacred soil. The mystics did not dissect the body to understand it. They listened to it, they danced with it, they breathed into it. And they knew this inner architecture was not random. It was sacred geometry in motion. The psoas is located precisely where the body's deepest energy centers reside. It is cradled near the root chakra, Muladhara, associated with survival, groundedness, and primal safety. And it rises toward the solar plexus, the seat of will and personal power, before brushing against the diaphragm, that sacred bellows of breath and spirit. Some even say that the psoas kisses the edge of the soul. Now pause, because what if this muscle, the one that holds your uprightness, also holds your buried grief? What if it carries the tremble of your ancestors, the silent echoes of fears never spoken, of memories unprocessed and pains passed down? You see, the psoas is more than meat and motion. It is your body's hidden journal, recording what your mind forgot. It is the gatekeeper of what you were too young to name and too wise to forget. When tight, the psoas clamps down like a coiled wire. Your energy stagnates, your breath shortens, your belly tightens. You feel anxious, but you don't know why. You feel blocked, but can't explain it. Life becomes survival, not embodiment. But when this muscle softens, something else happens entirely. A flow returns, a warmth rises, and for the first time, perhaps in years, your soul takes a deep breath through the body. You begin to feel, not just in the mind, but in the bones. And this is where the story truly begins. Part 2, the sacred tension, emotion, energy, and the soul's memory. If the body is a temple, then the psoas is the altar where memory kneels. Beneath its sinews lie not only tendons and fascia, but emotion stored like whispers in stone. This is where fear first took root. This is where the child hid when the world shouted too loudly. And this is where, unknown to most, the story of survival continues, echoing long after the danger has passed. The psoas is deeply tied to your autonomic nervous system, especially the sympathetic response, fight, flight, freeze. It's the first to respond when a threat is sensed, even if that threat is just a thought. Over time, chronic stress keeps this sacred muscle in a state of constant vigilance. And so, without even realizing, your body stays braced, as if something terrible is always about to happen. You may call it anxiety, or tight hips, or poor sleep. But what if it's none of those things? What if it's a silent scream asking to be heard? You see, your body does not forget. Even if your mind moves on, your tissues hold tight. The psoas especially, so close to your core, so intimate with your spine and breath, acts like a vault. And inside it are emotions too ancient for language. The tremble of your mother's fear when she carried you, the unspoken grief of generations past, the moment your younger self didn't feel safe enough to speak. These live in the shadows of your lower belly, whispering truths your conscious mind never dared to ask. That's why deep work on the psoas can lead to unexpected waves of emotion, tears, trembling, visions, or a sudden sense of peace so profound it humbles the heart. The psoas, in many ways, is your emotional spine. But it doesn't end there. This sacred muscle is not only a guardian of your past, but a gatekeeper of your soul's light. When relaxed and gently awakened, the psoas allows energy to rise from the root chakra to the heart and beyond. This flow is the sacred current of Kundalini, the coiled serpent that carries divine memory and inner fire. Mystics across cultures have described it: the fire in the spine, the river of light, the awakening breath. These aren't poetic metaphors, they're felt realities. And the psoas is the bridge. Picture this: your breath moving slowly into your lower belly. As it presses into the psoas, something stirs, not pain, not tension, but presence, a golden warmth, a forgotten rhythm, a pulse of life that says, "I'm still here." The more you breathe with it, not into it, but with it, the more it awakens. It does not respond to force. It does not open through effort. The psoas is a sacred animal. It opens when you listen. And when it does, your entire system begins to shift. Your digestion softens, your sleep deepens, your thoughts quiet. But more importantly, your soul begins to speak. You start hearing truths you didn't know were yours. You feel drawn to nature, to silence, to a rhythm older than time. Synchronicities become frequent. Dreams become vivid. The boundary between body and spirit grows thin. This is not imagination. This is embodied remembrance. Part 3. The ancestral flame, inherited wounds and the echoes within. What if your tightness is not just yours? What if the tension coiled in your belly belongs to more than just your personal story? There is a mystery buried deep within the psoas, a mystery older than you. The body does not only remember its own wounds, it also remembers what came before. Lineage lives in flesh, trauma moves through blood, and your psoas, the sacred rope between spine and leg, is one of the places where ancestral memory lingers like smoke in stone. Have you ever felt sadness for no reason? An ache in your heart that didn't belong to a moment? That is inheritance. Not genetic, but energetic. And the psoas, rooted deep in your core, is the chamber where those echoes dwell. In many indigenous traditions, the lower belly was regarded as the cauldron of life, not just for creating children, but for transmuting the energy of the past. The psoas, sitting quietly in that sacred space, acts like an altar where unresolved emotions are laid bare. War, famine, abandonment, oppression, secrets unspoken, passed down like haunted lullabies. But this is not punishment. It is invitation to heal what was never healed, to bring light where silence ruled. And when the psoas is activated with intention, not only through physical movement, but spiritual presence, it begins to release what never belonged to you, but lived through you. This is why many who work with the psoas deeply report unexpected dreams. Faces they've never seen but feel familiar, voices they've never heard but somehow recognize. These are the threads of blood and soul unraveling. The past speaking, not to haunt, but to harmonize. To remind you that you are the vessel where the old stories can finally change course. As you breathe, move, and soften into the psoas, you don't just stretch a muscle, you awaken a lineage. The body's temple becomes a clearing ground, a sacred field where the echoes of your ancestors rise not to scream, but to be witnessed, honored, and set free. And it is in that release that power returns. When the psoas is no longer carrying the weight of generations, it begins to hum with a new frequency. What once was survival becomes creativity. What once was fear becomes wisdom. This sacred muscle becomes the chalice where instinct becomes insight. The energy that rises is no longer reactive, it is radiant. It climbs from your sacral chakra to your solar plexus, igniting your core not with tension, but with presence. And as it continues upward, it meets your heart, not to protect it, but to open it, to let it feel fully, without collapse, without fear. This is the hidden alchemy. When the body becomes a bridge and pain becomes passage, when the very place you once held trauma becomes the womb of transformation. The psoas is not here to hurt you. It is here to help you remember. And what you remember may not be a memory at all, but a vibration, a knowing, a return to the root, not as the beginning of fear, but as the beginning of sacred fire. Part 4. The body as instrument, breath, light, and the sacred vibration. What if the universe is not somewhere out there, but within your very spine? What if your bones are not just structural, but architectural, not merely holding you up, but forming a temple designed for light to move through? And at the center of that temple, the psoas hums, a living string stretched between earth and sky. To the untrained eye, the body appears mechanical. but to the mystic eye, it is music. The breath is rhythm, the psoas is vibration, and the soul, it is the musician. When the psoas is dormant or constricted, the music is muted. The song of the soul is lost in static. But when this sacred string is softened through presence, movement, and breath, the music returns. Subtle at first, like a whisper between ribs, then louder, fuller, radiant. This is not metaphor. It is the experience of those who have listened long enough, who have dared to sit with discomfort, to breathe into mystery, and to hear the ancient song that was always playing beneath the noise. The psoas, positioned so closely to the diaphragm, becomes a gatekeeper of breath, not just oxygen, but prana, chi, ruach, the sacred life force known by many names across cultures. Every breath into your belly becomes a communion. As you exhale, you're not simply releasing air. You are letting go of fear, of trauma, of stories that no longer serve you. The body lightens. The field expands. It is at this threshold that something extraordinary happens. Your awareness begins to rise, not just figuratively, but literally. As the psoas unwinds, energy is freed to move upward along the spine. It rises through the solar plexus, brushes the heart, and touches the pineal gland, the gateway of vision, intuition, and cosmic sight. This is why ancient traditions spoke of seeing with the inner eye, of fire rising through the spine, of light blooming at the crown. They were describing something real, something biological, something mystical. You may feel heat, you may see color, you may have visions, but more importantly, you may begin to trust yourself again, because the deeper you go into the body, the clearer your intuition becomes. Your decisions come from stillness, not reactivity. Your presence deepens, and you begin to live from the inside out, not chasing life, but radiating into it. The body, when opened this way, becomes a conduit for the soul, a sacred vessel, a temple not of stone, but of flesh. And the psoas, it becomes the sacred string through which the universe plays its melody of becoming, one breath at a time, one movement at a time, until life no longer feels fragmented, but whole. This is the gift of remembering, not some mystical escape, but a grounded awakening, a return to the sacred design hidden in your bones. Part 5, Sacred Fire, Transforming Desire into Devotion. In many spiritual paths, desire is treated like a problem, something to be tamed, silenced, or transcended. But the mystics knew otherwise. They did not fear desire, they revered it. For in its raw, undirected form lies the seed of transformation. The psoas, rooted in the pelvis and intimately connected to the sacral chakra, is a key keeper of this primal fire. Sexual energy, often misunderstood, is not separate from spiritual energy. It is spiritual energy, unawakened, unrefined, and waiting to be remembered. The lower belly, home to both creative potential and survival instinct, becomes the crucible where this fire is either suppressed or sanctified. And the psoas is the flint. When blocked, desire festers into compulsion or numbness. But when met with presence, when the breath reaches the base of the spine and the heart remains open, something miraculous begins. Desire becomes devotion. Passion becomes prayer. The same force that pulls us outward begins to rise inward, upward toward the divine. This is why so many ancient practices focused on breath, movement, sound, and presence in the lower body, not to deny pleasure, but to transmute it, to redirect that fire from fleeting gratification into lasting illumination. The psoas, when engaged consciously, becomes not just a muscle, but a sacred torch. It carries this ascending energy up the spine, turning instinct into insight and pleasure into presence. As it rises through the solar plexus, desire no longer seeks control, but expression. Through the heart, it is no longer hungry, it becomes generous. And when it reaches the third eye, it becomes vision, clarity, guidance, inner knowing. This alchemy is not metaphorical, it is felt. It is breath by breath, moment by moment, the reshaping of how we inhabit the body and relate to its power. You begin to feel whole, not fragmented between sacred and profane, but unified. Your body is no longer something to overcome, it becomes the offering itself. Desire, when honored, becomes doorway, not distraction, a path to divinity through sensation, not despite it. The psoas, long silent, now sings, and the soul smiles, for its fire has found a worthy vessel. Part 6, the light expands, aura, intuition, and the embodied union. Something extraordinary begins to unfold when the psoas awakens, not just within the body, but around it. As this sacred muscle softens and opens, a field emerges. You may not see it at first, but you feel it, a widening, a pulsing, a sense of space where once there was tension. Your electromagnetic field, your aura, expands. It begins to hum with frequencies once dormant, like ancient strings now vibrating to a sacred tone. Synchronicities increase. You think of someone, and they call. You walk a path, and a symbol appears. Time feels less linear, more fluid. And within this shift, your perception deepens. You don't just think, you know. You don't just feel, you sense. This is not supernatural. It is natural magic, remembered. For when the body is aligned, spirit flows effortlessly. When the psoas, the axis between instinct and divinity, is awake, the soul does not whisper, it sings. Emotionally, you become clearer. The heavy fog you didn't even know you carried lifts. Fear no longer commands you. Instead, there is presence, resilience, a new relationship with vulnerability. You begin to listen not only to your body, but through it. Pain becomes a messenger, not a threat. Stillness becomes a teacher. And in moments of silence, you feel a pulse that is not just yours, but belongs to the cosmos. The body becomes an instrument tuned to the frequency of truth. Spiritually, you feel more grounded than ever, yet more cosmic too. Your feet root into the earth while your crown opens to the stars. You feel yourself as a thread between worlds. This is the mystery of embodiment, that your divinity does not lie in escape, but in presence. And the psoas is the golden doorway where these worlds meet. When aligned, it becomes not only a pathway for energy, but a channel of light. Through this channel flows vision, memory, love, and power. Not taken, but remembered. Not forced, but invited. As you walk through life with this awakened body, you begin to radiate. People feel it without words. Your presence becomes medicine. You speak less, but your energy says more. You act less from effort and more from alignment. You stop seeking, because what you once sought is now moving through you. This is not a fantasy. This is embodiment. It does not mean life is without difficulty, but it means you are no longer fragmented, no longer living in pieces or chasing completion. You are rooted, alive, awake. And in this awakening, your path becomes not a climb, but a dance. You begin to move with life, breathe with it, co-create with it, and this dance begins at the very base of your spine. Part 7, The Return, Remembering the Sacred Temple Within. The psoas is not just a muscle, it is a memory, a bridge, a sacred witness. To awaken it is not simply to stretch or strengthen, it is to remember. Not just who you are, but what you are, a vessel, a spark, a meeting point of earth and light. In the ancient world, mystics didn't separate the physical from the spiritual. To them, the body was not a problem to fix, it was a portal to revere. Every muscle a glyph, every bone a prayer. The psoas was not mapped in words, but in experience, in vision, in transformation. To breathe into your psoas is to begin listening to what was once silenced, to honor what was once hidden. It is an act of courage, of remembrance, and in doing so you realign yourself, not only with your soul, but with something older, deeper, a rhythm that began long before your name. This journey is not one of performance. It's not about perfect posture or advanced technique. It is about presence, gentleness. It is about stepping into a new kind of listening, a listening with the bones, the breath, and the heart. As you soften the psoas, you may feel pain, but you will also feel light. You may encounter fear, but you will also meet truth. The soul doesn't demand your perfection, it calls for your presence. And the body doesn't ask to be transcended, it longs to be heard. When you honor your psoas, you begin to walk differently, not just in how your feet move, but in how your soul meets the world. You stand taller, not from tension, but from alignment. You move slower, not from weakness, but from reverence. You speak softer, not from doubt, but from knowing. You become not just a seeker, but a vessel, a presence, a living flame of remembrance. So let this be the invitation, to return, to descend back into your own sacred ground, not in shame, but in awe. To meet your body not as a burden, but as a cathedral. To walk through your life not in fragments, but in wholeness. And to let the psoas, this golden thread of soul, become the path, the guide, and the prayer. The soul was never lost. It was always waiting, and now you remember.